I think good adjustment, I've learned my body feels unanimous. It feels one. It feels like the toes, the fingers, the top of my head, it's all working together. And then like the thumbs down assist or adjustment is like, is that supposed to, it's like a lot of second guessing and kind of like panicked breathing. And I think that's how you know right away, green flag or red flag.
Welcome back to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. My name is Reika and I am your host. Thank you for tuning in this week. If you are a new listener, welcome to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. And if you are a returning listener, I want to say thank you for coming back and listening to the podcast again. So the Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast was created so I can interview amazing full-time yoga teachers across the world and share their journey of how they made being a full-time yoga teacher into their career. This kind of podcast and conversations were something I wish I could listen to when I was a newer yoga teacher trying to navigate the world of being a full-time yoga teacher. So now I get to interview the amazing teachers with amazing experiences and kind of share their journey and how they made teaching into their career. So I hope you're enjoying this podcast. We are actually in the middle of the mini series that I'm doing with Allie. We're talking about hands-on assists. So I hope you enjoyed the last week's episode 71, which was the first of the mini series of Allie and I talking about the hands-on assist in the yoga world. So this week we are talking about our own experiences of positive and negative hands-on assist, and we kind of go off onto different tangent in hands-on assist, but I hope you're enjoying it. I know I put out questions on Instagram. If you don't follow me, my Instagram is @ReikaYoga. And I asked people what they thought about hands-on assist, and I got really good comments and feedback and inputs into your thoughts on hands-on assist. So if you have any thoughts, stories, or philosophy around hands-on assist, I would love to hear from you. You can always message me on Instagram. You can leave me a comment on the post I did, or just message me through my website as well. So I love to hear from all of you. Before we get started on this week's episode, I just have one announcement, which is I have one room left in my upcoming ethical yoga retreat in Nicaragua. I am so excited to go to this retreat in July. The retreat is 1 week long from July 12th through the 19th. And some of you might already know this, but I actually lived and worked in Nicaragua back in 2013. So I'm actually excited to go back to Nicaragua. I have really fond, beautiful memories of me living and working in Nicaragua. I was working for a nonprofit organization doing organic farming work and also leading a volunteer trip in Nicaragua. So it's been a while. It's been over 10 years since I was there working, but I did go to Nicaragua recently to go check out this retreat center before I made a decision to run this retreat at this retreat center, because I always like to check out the place before I make the big decision. So I'm just excited to kind of get back and spend more time in Nicaragua again. It's a beautiful country, slightly under the radar, I think, and with unique history. So I'm excited to learn more about Nicaragua and actually get to work closely with the nonprofit organizations in the area that we're going to be having our retreat. The reason why it's called Ethical Retreat is because I partner with 2 local nonprofit, and we are actually going to go volunteer for that organization as part of our retreat activities, as well as part of the money that each participant paid to attend this retreat will be directly donated to these 2 local nonprofit organizations doing amazing work for the local community. So if this is something that you are interested in, It is not just any other yoga retreat, but retreat that is ethical and hopefully have a positive impact in the places that we're visiting, then this retreat is for you. So I have one room left. This can be for one person or two, and I really would love to have you join. So if you have any questions about the retreat, please let me know. I'll put the link on the show notes for the landing page on my retreat, so you can find most of the information you need on that website, but you can also reach out to me and ask me questions. That is all the announcement I have for today. So let's get started on the second episode of the 4-part series with Allie's, where we are talking about hands-on assists in yoga.
Welcome back, Allie, to the conversation series we're having about hands-on adjustment, hands-on assist in yoga world. Last week, if you missed that episode, we talked about what is hands-on adjustment or hands-on assist, depending on which word you prefer to use. We talked about why, and it gave us a great definition of hands-on assist and hands-on adjustment. So this week, we wanted to kind of dive deep into what we like about hands-on adjustment, what we don't like, maybe going into our own personal stories. So I'm curious, Allie, have you ever had a bad adjustment?
I know I have. One doesn't come to mind. One isn't like blaring, but I've had a plethora of adjustments that the person is very hesitant. It wasn't like bad in the sense of like, oh, it was more just like, oh boy, I can tell that they don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be receiving this. Hello.
That's such a good point you bring up, because I'm sure I've been there when I was a newer teacher where I was hesitant to give hands-on assists. And it's like, my hands must have been so like uneasy and, I probably felt awkward doing it, which means that students probably felt awkward receiving it. And it's actually hard to break that barrier to like go from not being comfortable to feeling really comfortable. So I think it's great we're having this convo, and it's great that you're also teaching this kind of workshop for teachers. Maybe not many 200 hours offer education on hands-on assist, or even any at all.
That was a question I asked all my people that came to the part 1 and part 2 of my adjusting workshop. How much time do you spend? And they were pretty much all said the same thing. Like, you learn a child's pose adjustment, you maybe smash somebody into a forward fold, which I don't think is a great adjustment, by the way. And then they're like, cool, now adjust everybody in your class and help them be the best yogi ever. Okay, bye.
I know we're going to talk about different type of assists, but I just wanted to mention that there's, the type of assist that push you deeper into a pose. But I don't know if you ever had this kind of assist, or maybe seen is like super like massage, like Thai massage, like assist, like so much pushing, pulling, touching. It's like almost a little bit too much, in my opinion, because I'm sure some people love that. But almost it's like the adjustment is like you're getting a massage everywhere.
Yeah, like I love the Shavasana adjustment where a teacher comes up and cradles my head and rubs my neck and all that stuff. But save it for somebody that I know and that I love and trust as my yoga teacher, because that's a very trusting moment. I'm not about to massage your neck. I'm so sorry. I'm a yoga teacher. When I become a massage therapist, then I'll massage your neck. And like I literally love that adjustment. And I do that adjustment to people that I know, that I love, and not people that I don't know. And especially not when I'm covered in sweat and they're covered in sweat. I don't know if I'm wearing a necklace, some earrings. My hair's been pulled in that. My earring's been knocked out in that adjustment. It's great and grand, but you need to kind of have the right context. And like, we're talking about, kind of what we love and what we don't love. And obviously we're not trying to be negative, but kind of be critical about something that we care about, just adjustments and yoga. And like, I super love adjustments. And then I super don't love the ones that push you into flexibility and pull you. And as much as those are good and they can be cool if you really want it and you kind of know what you're doing and they know what they're doing, but it's like, that's super rough when it's a new person. They're really tight. They're brand new to yoga and they're like, please don't hurt me.
Yes, I totally agree with you. So I used to practice Ashtanga yoga, like Mysore style.
Very big on adjustments.
If anybody listening who is new to like Mysore style Ashtanga yoga, in the Ashtanga world, hands-on adjustment is a huge part of the practice. The teachers give hands-on adjustment quite a lot.
Mostly to like everybody if they can.
Yeah, almost to everyone. And because in my soul star, there's barely any like verbal cueing. I mean, there is an explanation if you're new that, teacher's going to explain to you or can come over and have a little conversation or tell you about certain things, but it's not like a lead class where you're teaching every pose, every transition. So there's less verbal cues in Ashtanga, and it's more of this manual adjustment that happens from teachers. And I understand that's a traditional way in Ashtanga world to be learning, I guess, asana. And I used to assist at Mysore room, so I actually learned how to do those strong adjust. And part of me, I still to this day do like some of the strong adjustment, but at the same time, I don't really receive those anymore. And it has to be somebody I really trust to receive those. And I don't no longer want to give any adjustment or assist that is pushing student deeper into a pose. That's something I stepped away from doing and I no longer want to do. Is I don't want to push student deeper into a pose that they're not getting them there themselves. Just because even though it might feel good, like some students might be listening and be like, but I love when teacher push me deep into a forward fold or twist me deep in a revolved triangle. And I hear you. But for me as a teacher, it's too much risk to do that because I don't know every single stories of that student's body and where they're at that day. You just never know what's going to happen. And I just don't feel comfortable doing any kind of adjust that push people deeper into a pose anymore.
And like it goes from yoga being low impact to like it could potentially have impact with that outside force. Like that's what I feel like, people always are like, well, you have to adjust to keep people safe. You have to adjust, to make people do it right. And it's like, absolutely no, none of those things. You don't have to adjust. That's one thing that I thumbs down on adjusting is that teachers think they have to. So then they do go into that awkward moment and have an awkward adjust. And they're like, I'm supposed to do this. And it's like, wait until you're comfortable. And even in my teacher education course afterwards, I had them do some homework and like some of it was just like write about your personal experience. And some of them were like, love it. Gonna keep doing more of it. Can't wait. Some of them were like, I think I'm awkward. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And you might be now and you'll grow into it. Like just give yourself some time because you don't need to be pushing people around if you're not comfortable with it yourself. I find, there can be a lot of education and adjustments and then you can sometimes just throw people into the deep end and adjust. And they're like, I don't even know how to do that.
Yes, definitely. Some of the bad adjustment I have had is, sometimes like they're touching you. The teachers are touching you, but there's like no direction or it just feels like touching it to touch you. And it's like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I don't know how to interpret your touch into like my learning process. That's some of them I had. And also similar to you, some awkward touch that I could tell that teacher wasn't comfortable or confident in that touch or adjustment. And definitely adjustment that was just too strong. Definitely being in the Mysore room in Ashtanga, I've gotten many adjustments that I wouldn't say I'm tight. I'm kind of in the average human being, maybe I'm not tight, but in the yoga world, I have a tighter body and my body just don't go very deep into certain poses. So I remember getting a seated forward fold Paschimottanasana assist and the teacher was pushing me really deep and like I have never experienced that strong of a push that I almost felt like my hamstring's gonna rip off, but it didn't rip off, but it was like the strongest push I ever received that I was a little bit afraid like what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Some of the stories I heard of crazy assists, if you don't mind me sharing.
No, I don't mind.
This is in India in a Mysore room, Patami Joyce. Somebody was in Baddha-Konasana, soles of your feet together, knees wide, seated forward fold. Some people call that butterfly pose. Patami Joyce would stand on someone's like inner thigh, knee area to push the knee down. And the person who was telling me the story said she was in the same room and she says she heard a big pop And the person who received that adjustment had to like wobble and hop out of the room because I don't know, something happened in their hip socket. So that is scary.
Literally, like your bones are only meant to move in such a way in your personal, unique built joint. And that's why people have different flexibility and why you should always consider joint anatomy before you're pushing people into flexibility. I think there's so many cool adjustments you can do in a forward fold that have nothing to do with smushing into sandwich mode. I think of like stabilizing assists or adjustments. Like there's a nice one where you can kind of put pressure on the sacrum, not an awkward pressure. You got to mean it because the sacrum can take that type of push. And where you can very gently cue and ground the outer hips and then let their spine move in any way. So it's essentially a pelvic tilt that you do with your hands, or rather you're trying to. Little pressure on the sacrum, low back forward, tiny adjustment of the outer hips to go back so they can feel if their pelvis is overly rounded, or they can get a little anterior tilt to make space for that forward fold that they want to do so deeply, but they fucking refuse to do the other verbal cues that you've told them. Students are stubborn. I can only speak on it because I am one of those stubborn students. When I started finally listening 5 or 6 years later, I was like, well, damn. This feels like how I want it to feel and how I've wanted it to feel. And I know for me, like, I think good adjustment, I've learned my body feels unanimous. It feels one. It feels like the toes, the fingers, the top of my head, it's all working together. And then like the thumbs down assist or adjustment is like, is that supposed it's like a lot of second guessing and kind of like panicked breathing. And I think that's how you know right away, green flag or red flag.
Yeah, I do like that, almost like the grounding assist that you just gave example of. I've seen like in the even child's pose or Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold, similar to what you said, but like almost the teacher's adjustment is it's grounding the top thigh down, which is kind of what you said of like outer hip is grounding down towards the ground, and then letting the students do the folding. You're just grounding the top thigh, or
Yeah, and the grounding of the thighs, you're pushing on their body. And yeah, you can use a lot of body weight actually on that one, especially kind of tinier people like us. And you're not by any means pushing into flexibility. You're literally pushing their femur bone down farther. So it's not this in the joint. There's like that little bit of space. And I'm obviously exaggerating that amount. Let's probably open up that much in your body. But it literally is moving your pelvis to turn the hip joint in a certain way to give the top of the femur bone more space.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
We love that part of adjusting. We love that. And then we don't love a super rounded low back, upper back, neck, followed by a super rounded low back, followed by stretch the fuck out of your hamstrings.
Yeah. What about, what are some examples of a great adjustment that you have received that you love?
I feel like I receive endlessly great ones because I received a lot from Jason's teacher training and then my teacher, Nikki, and I'm going on a yoga retreat soon, y'all. So I'm going to get a lot of assists from her. So let me report back after as well, because I'll have new ones. But I love how Nikki is able to assist me when I jump up into a handstand and I try to do a handstand knee tuck. So you're curled into a little ball with your knees, but you're handstanding.
Yeah.
And that's always something that kind of scares me because I don't have my legs to catch me and I don't feel like I have the control to twirl land out of it, kind of like a cartwheel. So I love her adjustment of when I jump up into that and what she does. And I honestly can't even tell you exactly what she does because, girl, I'm practicing. I'm in my student mind, which is rare. It's definitely something where she braces my landing. So she braces my sacrum, probably with her outer hip, or maybe another body part, maybe even one of her hands. And then she just brings my hips into alignment over my shoulders because I usually, I'll jump too far so she'll catch me. And then when I end up overcompensating and almost coming down, she'll hold on. And then she'll be able to push me in the right areas that you think you're so aware as a yoga teacher, and then your teacher's on you and you're like, I know nothing anymore. Those are the ones I love when I'm like, yes, I know nothing anymore. Teach me more.
I love that. Those sounds great. And I wish I could see her giving that assist so I can kind of like have more visualization of like where she is in space. And
probably doing like a warrior one, hip out.
Yeah. Okay. That I think like adjusting or helping people in inversion is like a whole nother skill of hands-on adjustment that, you can probably have a whole nother just workshop on that.
You are right. Girl, she's promoting for me, people. Great content for
Some of the adjustment that I have had that I really appreciate is there's many. Obviously, there's some feel good one that we all love, right? Like the shavasana one or cradling the head, or there's some feel good one, but obviously that has to be done right. But another one that I would really appreciate is when teacher can shine a light on my blind spot. So the places that I may not have a lot of knowing of where my body's at in space. For example, I have a tendency to kind of flare my ribs forward, and let's say like warrior one, when arms are overhead. And my teacher was sometimes like, will grab the back of my rib cage and try to lift my back ribs up, or will touch my front ribs and kind of, can you soften the front ribs back in? So those kind of one that she's not like yanking me into that position, but almost like waking me up in the place that I don't even realize I'm going in that direction. So really, like shining the light on the blind spot, or even like place a hand on my back ribs and say, can you breathe into my hand?
I
Those
love
kind of
that one.
things.
That's always been a great, and that's like a breathing assist, or yeah, right. You wouldn't call it a breathing adjustment. You know what I'm saying? This is where assist just keeps coming a better and better word. There is like ways to do like breathing assists, like breathing cues that are deeper than just inhale, exhale. But I bet you so many people practicing have had that like breathe into the back of the ribs. But when you've had your teacher's hands on you and you're like, I feel the expansion, it feels so good. As you were talking, it was making me think like another really cool assist that I've had from Jason Crandall is when we were talking about drop backs and back bends and Urdhva Dhanurasana, everything, and how you stabilize the sacrum, and how I have another teacher that says you start from the top and you go through the whole spine. So you kind of start from your neck and then you start bending back, which felt weird at first, but anyways, it's a cool way to drop back if you want to try it, yogis. But stabilizing the sacrum and having your hands around somebody's outer hips, thumbs on the sacrum, pulling down as they lift their sternum up and start to back bend, you stabilize their sacrum, and it just lets the spine do its thing with like that little extra outside support that gives the legs the cues that they need to strengthen the glutes and everything. And then you land ever so gracefully. That was one of the coolest and trippiest assists for
I
sure.
like that. That sounds, it's almost kind of similar to that Paschimottanasana assist, because you're grounding, stabilizing one part of the body so that the other part can really like lengthen. Is that like, but then assist part is not the moving part, but assist part is the grounding and stabilizing.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like my assist might be different than other people's interpretations, because like in Jason's training, we do a lot in the 300 hour. We do a lot of time on assist and hands on with people. It's like 3 hours multiple times throughout the week. And it's super valuable stuff to know. Even if you're not going to be doing a bunch of adjustments, being a teacher and knowing how and why is like super enlightening. And I think it helps you with your verbal cues for sure too.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. So I think we kind of covered for what's the good adjustment that we have had and what's maybe a bad one. Is there anything I missed or you missed that you want to say something before we close this week's conversation?
Maybe just one last thought. Definitely, like, this podcast and these episodes are going to pertain a lot to yoga teachers as well as yoga practitioners, but I hope we're educating yoga teachers as well. And so one thing I want to say is like, I love adjustments a lot. And as a yoga teacher, what I don't love is that it's almost assumed that we're going to assist, we're going to hands-on adjust. That might deter students when they think of yoga in their mind. That might be something really nerve-wracking for you because you don't even want to put your hands on people, because don't forget that you don't have to do hands-on assists. I do think as a yoga teacher, it's something important you should learn, because again, of the knowledge you're going to gain within your own body and seeing other people's bodies is going to give you those x-ray goggles. And so also, we love that now you really assist people with consent. You go hands-on with consent. Like you're saying, we do it with kind of anonymous ways, maybe seated with the eyes closed or child's pose, raise a hand. And what we don't love about adjustments is how they used to not be that way, and how there is like a power dynamic. And, I don't want to throw men in general under the bus, but when you have modern yoga and it's so many women, then you have that male teacher and you're just like questioning their intentions, like that's uncomfortable. I have received that, I could say, is the world's worst adjustment. Don't want to get into too much tea. I mean, it's not really that much tea, but definitely creepy male teachers that touch their students. And then they end up losing their jobs. And you're like, oh, I wonder why. Because they're creeps. And like I said, it's not just men. There's creepy people everywhere. But even you as a teacher, if you adjust men, sadly, so sadly, they can take it the wrong way. And you're just there being a yoga teacher, doing your thing, being your vibe. And there can be the vibe kind of killers, So those are like the really things that obviously I really love adjusting. And then that major opposite kind of is that power dynamic that I think we've changed a lot over time. So super proud of us. Yay. And we'll talk about the evolution of adjusting and definitely how that kind of plays a part in it. So
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's so important. I think it's so important that we are asking for consent from students before we do them. Some studio will have like a card or a coin or something that you can have like next to your mat if you want adjustment, or you flip the card to other side if you don't want adjustment. That could work for some studios, some students. And I like that what you said of like asking consent anonymously when, like, for example, I usually do them when their heads are down in child's pose. So everyone's head are down, everyone's eyes closed. And this is what I say, and people can take it if they want to. I say, I do offer hands-on assist when I'm teaching class. It's not to push you deeper into a pose, but it's more to wake up your blind spot, or directional assist. But if you don't want to be touched today for any reason, I want to respect your space. So raise your hand now if you don't want to be touched today. Is the script that I use. So anybody, feel free to take it. What about you? Anything you say?
I don't really do that much assisting lately, especially because I'm so sweaty. Class is so crowded. It's just hectic. If anything, I'd be like adjusting the people right around me and then they become favorites, and that's not fair. But it would be exactly what you said. Like, I love the little explanation moment of it's not to push you deeper. I would say something like, it's just to help you better understand and hopefully give you a direction of where to go. It's like, it's that easy to let people know that you're not being a creepy weirdo and you really just want to help and share.
Yes, I love that. I love the little thing you added too. So definitely consent, I think, is important. And I think just understanding that there's a power dynamic, even if you try to break that power dynamic as much as possible, I think there's still somewhat, like, you're still the leader of the room. You're facilitating a class. You are the one that's like leading the class, yoga class at that moment. So I feel like no matter how much I try to break that, there's still like little bit of that. So trying to be respectful as much as possible, not to abuse that power dynamic that exists, and trying to level out the field as much as possible and do our best as a yoga teacher to give students agency and empowerment over their body and their practice.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. All right. That was a good way to wrap up this week's episode. Thank you, Allie. And we'll be back next week to talk about the evolution of hands-on adjustment in yoga.
Yes, we will.
Talk to you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to our conversation. I hope you enjoy this short format of the interviews or conversations that Allie and I are having. Hopefully a little bit more informative and educational. Like I said earlier, if you want to come on the retreat to Nicaragua with me, there's one room left for 1 or 2 people. So snag your spot. I'll put the link on the show notes. And as always, please rate, review, or star, or anything you can do from whatever platform you're listening to this podcast from. That helps me a lot. And most importantly, share this podcast with your friends, your yoga teachers, or anyone else that you think will benefit or enjoy this podcast. That would mean a lot to me. So that's it for this week. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye.